just after this final day is done, what are your reflections on what was really a pretty tough tour, but also the fight that was shown, particularly in that first innings, to get you close enough to save the game today?
Yeah, it's really been tough. We lost to a better team, more skilled, more experienced. And today to come out and fight the way we did was quite encouraging. From the start we knew we had to bat way above our average to compete. And probably the conditions in the first test challenged us there. And the second test we were pretty disappointed with our efforts. And to come here and show a glimpse of what we have was quite encouraging.
After a series like this, they generally talk of, oh, is South African Test cricket in trouble, or what is wrong with South African Test cricket? So do you read into that, or do you look at it like that, or do you just dismiss it as just one really bad series?
Well, it's important for us to be really honest with ourselves in terms of where we are. We've had tough series in England, we've had a tough series here. And as a country, we want to be competing against the so-called top three or against the big teams. But also, like I said, the honesty is we don't have the test caps that they have at the moment. And we are on our own journey in terms of putting structures together to compete against them. We've done well in the past against these teams, and unfortunately now they are slightly better than us. And some people would look at the structure and look at other things, but we brought the best thing that we have, we didn't compete. So from that we need to go back and reassess and get the right mix, to get the right processes in place to be able to compete against the big teams.
You kind of mentioned putting those processes in place. What were your expectations for this tour? Obviously it's a very strong Australian bowling team at the moment, and their batters did well. Like, what were you hoping to achieve with this tour?
Well, looking deeply in the tour, it was clear that first innings runs are going to be important to get our bowling attack operating against them, which we believe we can really get 20 wickets. Unfortunately, at times we didn't get the toss, which was quite important, especially in that first game. But I felt coming in, as much as we were challenged in terms of the batting averages, I think the conditions here are better than what we've played in the past 12 months. I was quite encouraged that we'll be able to get the 350 par first inning score for us to be able to put the Australian team under pressure. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that.
Well, Mali, when you talk about those processes, what do you actually mean? What are the processes that need to be fixed to make things better for this team?
Well, from my point of view personally, we need to get a lot more exposure for this group of players in terms of first-class cricket and also in terms of test cricket. I know we're working hard to get more test matches to get these guys playing more, and also to try and get a little bit more continuity. We've had COVID, guys missing series because of COVID, guys getting injured because of COVID, having to move the batting order around. Those are not excuses, they're just reality. We haven't just had continuity and people out of form, batting in different positions. It's something that we've dealt with. It's something that we don't use an excuse, but it's something that we want to make sure going forward, whoever comes in don't have to almost deal with that and just focus on the cricket and guys getting spots and building their names in those spots. Not having to bat 4, bat 3, just a little bit more consistency I think is going to go a long way in easing the players' minds and also getting them a lot more structure on what is required of them.
You've got this position at the moment in kind of an interim capacity at the moment. Just from your personal point of view, is it a role you're going to look to put your name forward for longer term?
Most definitely. I think it's quite an exciting challenge with what we have. And looking at the players back home, I'm sure everybody is looking up, thinking I've got an opportunity to push for a spot. So from that point of view, I'll definitely be putting my name up. Hopefully I get to be part of this project.
Talk about exposure, especially exposure to Test cricket for your players and your batsmen.
There's been a lot of talk about, I guess, the FTP and how few tests South Africa have that over the next 2 years. Are you genuinely hopeful and believe that there can be a way for more tests to be added to your schedule over the next period?
Yeah, most definitely. I know Cricket South Africa is working hard on getting more test matches for us. It's been said enough that we would like to play more. For us to grow and for these players to grow, they have to play and they need to be exposed. To come here, yes, in terms of experience, I felt we had enough first-class experience, but that's nowhere near enough to compete at this level, especially against an experienced bowling attack that we came across. You need to be tested at this level for a lot more for you to compete.
If I can say something, sorry. Do you feel that, like, it's almost catch-22, right? Because in some ways, when you have series like this, do you feel that's almost hurt your chances of getting more test matches against, you know, the bigger opponents as well, like pushing series out to 4 test series like they have been in the past and whatnot?
It is a bit of a catch-22, but people have come to South Africa and we've knocked them over. So from that point of view, we play very well at home. And for us, it's about exposure, getting out there for this young group of players. And we know what we have in terms of the players, and we know the talent that is coming through. But without exposing it, without helping it to grow, it's going to be difficult to go away and compete the way we would like to compete.
Go on the side of it.
Speaking of the players that are coming through, I mean, is it a question of this is the best we have and they just have to improve, or is there a lot of depth in Test cricket, especially in terms of your batting?
Well, a lot of players are scoring a lot of runs back home. So, no, I don't believe a lot of the first class around the world is going to prepare you for Test cricket against this quality bowling, which then means your first class performers need to be exposed to the next level to close the gap for Test cricket. And that's what I believe we should be focusing on, exposing the guys who are performing at first class level, even SAA games, and being closer to this team and get the feel on what Test cricket is all about.
Well,
So how much, I wonder, do you feel that pitches in South Africa are playing a part in this whole picture? There's been a lot of talk about the difficulties of batting in recent years, perhaps trying to perform them. Is that a genuinely key sort of factor in all of this as well? If you could expand on that.
Yeah, it's a tough one in the sense that pitches in India are foreign to us. They're difficult to bat on. So pitches are tough to bat in South Africa. The stats say it's the most difficult place to bat when it comes to Test cricket. But we've found a way of making that work for us. The question now is, with the younger batters, do we expose them to better wickets to build confidence, to get enough runs to be able to perform at this level? Or do we say, we're the team that's going to win at home, we just make it hard, make it difficult for people coming? That's probably the way we need to look at things. We come here, it's good wickets. How's our control going to be challenged in terms of batting here, in terms of bowling here? So those are the things that we need to address and be comfortable to win at home. Then we can leave it the way it is. Teams will know how difficult it is to play in South Africa, and we will be dealing with our own conditions. So it's a catch-22 in terms of how we go about growing our players. But we want to be successful all our way around the world, because to win the Test Championship, you have to come here and win. You have to go to India and win. And that's going to take a lot of exposure for our players in terms of those different conditions for them to compete around the world. We just don't want to be a team that only wins at home.
You obviously mentioned at the start the quality of some of the Australian players, and we've got 4 Australian bowlers who have more than 200 wickets, 2 guys who basically average 60. I mean, where do you think this Australian team sits in terms of recent history? And And how big do you think the gap is, especially in home conditions from Australia and say South Africa at the moment?
Yeah, I mean the quality, it's there for everybody to see. They give you nothing and they control their length very well, and they're quite clever with their fields. So in terms of experience, in terms of the quality of the whole team, I can't say it's difficult. Well, they've beaten us 2-0 to gauge the gap. How big the gap is, at the moment it might feel big because of how we went about in the first 2 test matches, but I don't think it's that big. If you look at our bowling attack and you look at the fact that we competed here, I really do believe 2 batters put their hands up in that first test, we were in the game. We are ahead 100 runs and our bowling attack has got those conditions, who knows.